right? If both those things are happening, if there's a falling in every moment and a rising in every moment, because the empty space here is already balanced, right? And we're predominantly empty space, right? So start to feel the bottoms of your feet on your foot pedals or on the floor. Feel where your sitting bones are, and then figure out where your spine needs to be in relationship to your sitting bones to make you not just compress, not help you feel the rise, but keep it embodied. Like, for example, one of the reasons why I tell you a lot to broaden between the shoulder blades is a preparation for Uddiyana Bandha, right? For what I understand as the energy, right? But then I want it to go, I want you to start to feel, right? And then open to the space here. So remember, empty space is going to have the ceasing in it, right? More than the movement. But then you start to realize that the ceasing and the movement are actually the same. So soften the jaw on the inside of your mouth as the energy of the spine lifts up this way, whether you start it from Mula Bandha or from your sitting bones and allowing where your sitting bones are and then feeling the space between your sitting bones, that already starts to rise up, right? And then when you actually feel down to your heels, that actually increases the rise up. Be open to what's behind you, what's in front of you. The empty space in you is already in balance, even as your blood's running and flowing. Now watch your breath as a fractal. You have pauses in your breath. You have the ceasing part of your breath and the moving part of your breath. So on this exhale all the way out with this next inhalation, just like smile at the ceasing and then start the inhalation. There's a rising, there's a slight locking that happens at the lower abdomen when you start your inhalation. It starts to rise up. As it's rising up, your lungs start to expand in every direction. That'd be true with the metaphysic, right? At the top, try not to judge when it stops, but allow it to another ceasing and then let it wash out. So your breath pattern, your four parts of your breath are already a fractal pattern for what's happening in existence. Part of it's voluntary, part of it's involuntary. The bandhas are already happening. You get to influence it by getting more aligned. But because I'd be remiss if Dave Matthews or David Byrne didn't make it into my class at all times, it's the same as it ever was. Nothing's actually new here, right? Your connection to the universe already is happening. All these things are already happening. It's whether you can receive it. If you want to, bring your hands into prayer. Find your own midline. Use the midline to actually ignite more awareness in your spine. See if you can equalize the pressure between your hands and between your effort so you can actually equalize each side of your body. Press the fingers together a little bit, but do it by lengthening the skin on your fingers. And then open and spread horizontally the center of your palm, making sure you stay connected at the heels, and let this be a fractal pattern for your whole body. As you actually lengthen your fingers up while keeping them grounded, that's your spine. Your hands are a microcosm of your spine. Everything's connected to everything. Soften your jaw, the inside of your mouth. let go of your day, and prepare to like be more congruent with the life space, with the living space. Turns out you're living and dying at the same time. It's freaking miraculous. All the while, the bandhas are happening. Good. And then release. Bring your hands down to your thighs, palms up. Palms up because maybe you're slightly more sensitive to the universe with your palms up. And maybe that's why all the statues of Buddha, a lot of the statues of the Buddhas have the palms up as a representation of nonviolence. So let the world rest very lightly on your fingertips and your palms. Stay open to what's behind you. So you're holding the world up with your palms, and it is enveloping you at the same time. It's all around you. Smile with inward knowing. Stay alert. It's miraculous here. Good. And then release. You know you're in a good place, Jessica Roshan, when it makes you weep to see how splendid it is, right? Makes me cry all the time, right? Right? Those are all part of it, right? All right. So this idea of lifting your sternum, one of the things that I think is really important about lifting the sternum is it makes your spine more alert, right? Right. It makes your rib cage more alert. And then drop your chest and go, oh, how come I sit at my computer like this all the time with my chest dropped? Right? Well, because it's functional, because I got to do things with my fingers, and I'm not an idiot, right? But every once in a while, while I'm working at my desk, I should maybe do this, lift my chest, because it's kind of happier, right? As long as I don't strain to do it, really engaged, happy people don't go around the world as much like this. They actually go around like this. So when you see someone that's really, you're down, and like I've been in a lot of pain this weekend, when I'm in a lot of pain, my chest drops, right? And I got to remember, come Monday morning, I'm hanging out with all you all, and so I better like be a little happier, not try to do it from up here, try to do it from the beginning of the bandha. And then if I drop my chin, where does my mind go? I try to tell you it's humility, right? So life force comes up through your mid channel, through your core channel. You get to receive it. And the mind needs to subjugate itself in humility by dropping the chin. Do it. So when your sternum is lifted, your rib cage is slightly more activated. You got to keep your sitting bones and feet grounded, right? Activate your rib cage. Drop your mind. Let the back of your eyes gaze into the center of your chest as the center of your chest reaches skyward from the stability of your sitting bones and feet. And suddenly, you're more of a vehicle. Jadahara Bandha. Good. And then release. I have a hard time with that one because in order to lift my sternum, I tend to overdo my diaphragm. Right? So I have to practice what it is to get this more lifted, my sternum more lifted, without overgripping my diaphragm because I'm right. And so one of the instructions that really helped me, so imagine this little action, which is in every yoga pose, right? you lift your chest in almost every yoga pose. Imagine there's a treasure of how to lift your sternum, right? This isn't just something you should throw. When you do it too quickly, you tend to do it from your outer body too much, right? And so one of the instructions that really helped me, and again, it may not be as powerful for you, was instead of lifting the front of my chest, I heard Laura Blakeney say, let your upper thoracic migrate forward into your body. And so instead of like pulling it from the front with my will, receiving it from the back, right? And when you start to do that, at first your chin wants to raise, right? Then drop your chin, right? So you get the raise and then up and over, drop your chin. So in other words, you don't collapse the back of your neck when you drop your chin. You lift from here, right? You keep this active, you lengthen your neck and then drop it. Does anyone notice a quality difference when you do that? Bandha, right? Makes sense that they're learning. Iyengar Yoga wants you to learn this upside down in shoulder stand because your chest is forced into lift. The neck is lengthened because you're up on your neck. And then you're trying to learn how the energy goes up instead of down. So when you and I are doing it sitting up, the way the early yogis did it, hopefully when you get the separation of the sternum and the drop of the chin and lengthening the back of the neck before it comes down, do you feel your legs more when you do it that way? Shoulder stand in the bandha. Because if I get this lifted, the neck lengthened, and then I drop in humility and let the back of my eyes go to the center of my chest, I feel my legs, which if I were upside down, would blow my mind, right? Is anybody with me still? Kind of? Is that a kind of? Angelique, why are you kind of with me?
I was with you, and then I was focusing on being here, and then I lost you. I lost
Oh,
you.
but that's really good. Stop listening to my words when it suits you. I
I
mean,
know.
that's good advice for anybody.
And then I wish
Stop listening.
I heard what you said because it sounded like it was really good.
It was really good, but it'll be there next time. So this is all because Catherine asked me about the freaking Bandhas,
Right.
right? All right, so here's another one. Okay, so this is like a secret for me lately, right? I'm really happy I have a midline at all. Like the midline, your core channel, it's super calming, right? But how you access it, this is what I mean about receiving bandhas as opposed to doing them, right? So lean over each way a little bit and just notice the gravity shift on each sitting bone. So remember, prana is going to reward structure. Reality is so encompassing and overwhelming that the mind has to narrow things down. And so one of the things what the mind does is, and then actually just lift up a little bit. One of the things that the mind does is it needs to be aware of structure in order to contain the immensity. So right now we're letting the brain get different gravity changes to help the brain feel where the sitting bones are, right? So you're trying to get that in the radar of your mind, right? Now find where the sitting bones are. So I'm going to lift up, and probably it's very true in my body, but I'm sure it's true in your body too, to some extent, to a lesser degree. I sit on one sitting bone heavier than the other, right? And so I'm going to lift up. And what I'm going to do when I lift up and take some weight off, whether you come off the ground or not, doesn't really matter, right? But when you lift up, when you change the pressure, I want you to start engaging the very low abdomen up, like it's going to come up through your chest and through your mouth, right? And as you set yourself back, so you keep that action up the whole time as you set yourself back down on your sitting bones. Try that. And then go and collapse into your thing you always sit in, right? Try it again, right? So I'm getting that lighter space. I'm making sure I stay conscious of the lift of my lower abdomen, even as I set the weight back down. Notice that keeps your chest lifted. Can you feel that when you do that? Nod your head if you know what I'm talking about, right? So in other words, don't collapse, right? Then lift your chest even more and drop your chin, keeping that spaciousness, right? And then go back to the world of gravity you usually go to. Why sitting's the new smoking, right? Because you're literally not getting the energy as well, right? Which you have to, you have to like, in order to sit all day long at a computer, you have to die a little bit every day, right? And so it's okay. Your posture is just like showing you that, right? And so now, how do you get to the midline again, right? So I want that space now that I've felt that alertness in my spine. Now find where your sitting bones are, create the sense of structure, and allow there's something in between. And for me, when I start to allow that, I feel it go up. Does anyone else feel it go up in there a little bit? No one? Let it collapse again. That's not up, right? When you collapse back into your spine, come forward again. Find where the sitting bones are. So now if you were to do the Kegel that Jane was talking about, squeezing, that would be like squeezing the tube of toothpaste. The thing about when you do that kind of squeeze, it also matters that you realize that that's the upward squeeze of the tube of the toothpaste, but there's also on the outer rim of your pelvis, there's a dropping down, right? So you're squeezing in a little bit, but kind of like I almost can only see the dropping down like from my metaphorical peripheral vision. Something is dropping so the tube can be squeezed. Now, can I catch it in my chest? And can I drop my chin? So now we're focusing on two of the bandhas here. And then release. So this may not be true, but I somehow think that Uddiyana Bandha is somehow deeper than Mula Bandha. Mula Bandha is a good way to start, but something even deeper is happening in Uddiyana Bandha. So that's going to add in a second. So, and it's going to come from allowing the space between your sitting bones. Okay, but so now we're going to like get that alert space again, right? So I'm coming forward on my sitting bones, right? I'm getting the spine more alert. I'm remembering the lift, right? Now I'm going to do a little bit of a Kegel, have it go up through my chest. I'm going to drop my chin down. Okay. And then release. So I'm imagining that the early yogis started having stuff like this happen when they were sitting, right? Which, by the way, when you're paralyzed and you think that maybe the core energetic actions of yoga happen when they're sitting, that's good news if you're paralyzed, right? If you're not walking around. Okay, so now how do I add another dimension? Because if you're meditating well, you're doing all the bandhas at once, right? They're all happening. Okay, so now back to the space between, right? So when I find where my sitting bones are, I'm rocking back and forth a little bit to find where my sitting bones are. Does anyone see? I've been doing yoga a long time, but even when I start rocking, when I come forward, do you feel how the light energy goes right down to your feet when you change gravity? Can you feel that kind of shit? I don't know if, I don't know if it's that I've done too many drugs, right? I don't know. I haven't done that many drugs, but right, where all of a sudden I start to feel like, wait, when my spine moves in relationship to my body, all the energy changes? What the hell? Right? Like I don't have to work for any of this. I was trying to show you this in the pranayama classes, that actually the body starts to move, effortless effort happens. When I start to feel my spine move, I actually start feeling more of my body because my spine's at the epicenter, right? All right, so now I'm going to remember what the squeezing action was, but now I'm going to think of the ignition flame of a pilot light. How do I get the, oof, that sound when a pilot light turns on? You know the one I'm talking about? So there's but it's not going to come through it's a female tiger, Richard Freeman said to me. It's deep. It's not an action of the Kegel, right? Although the Kegel starts to prepare, right? The lift of the sternum, the drop of the chin. So you get to this position, and then you let something, the space between, ignite. And if you're honoring the universe, of course your chin would be dropped. Of course your chest would be lifted. Now, can you breathe equally through each nostril? Into each lung? Good. And then release. Now I'm already exhausted because trying to keep all that in me at the same time is like, holy cow. So this is where you take refuge in the asana, right? We're gonna stop doing this bandha shit, right? Because it's freaking intense. It's right at the core of my manifestation, right? No wonder they were sitting still and meditating as their spines ignited as part of the universe, right? That's what happened. All of a sudden, these freaking yogis are sitting still and they're going, holy shit, I am profoundly receiving in this universe. It's so intense. I think I'll develop some asana, some ways to let it move, to let it be can I keep the bandhas happening even while I'm moving? And the answer is, yeah, asana becomes one of the 8 limbs. Turns out that all this shit is happening while I'm moving too, right? So the bandhas get realized in stillness, relative stillness, and then they start getting applied to action. So then you hear about it like Mula Bandha in standing poses and all these different things, right? Okay, so now you start going, okay, maybe got a slight imprint because that forever started the class, right? So now I'm going to try to remember, because you got to trust your sequence, right? So now I'm going to go, I'm going to push on my own knees and I'm going to remember all that we just tried to feel and go, oh, wow. And then I'm going to get, wait, if I push my knees out, I'm way farther away from any of the bandhas, right? If I push them together a little bit and I get my femur bones lined up with my hips, oh, there's the tickle of the space. Now the real challenge is, can I feel this core channel even with my legs wide? What the hell? So now my legs go wide and I've got this like loud noise of my knees being out here. And yet this midline still happening, right? And I got to figure out. So I'm going to rock back and forth again like we do every class. It's like, wow, you mean this core channel expresses itself out into the world from the base of my spine through my knees? That's cool. Now, how do I make sure it continues down to my heels? Right? What do I got to do? What type of awareness do I need to have? And in a way, I feel bad for you people that can feel your heels because you think you know where your heels are when you don't know where they are energetically, right? Right? You think because you got the outer body, you think you got the inner body. You don't. Just so you know, you need to practice both. And then I'm going to go over one direction and do this thing we always do. Oh, wait, when I go over this way, I could kind of squeeze and do the Kegel, but I would say, Jane, in Trikonasana, you probably don't want to just do it from your lower abdomen. You almost want to do it from the space underneath your seat. So you start the action in the empty space and come through, and then do the Kegel, and then take the arms wide, the arm wide. Now, when I breathe and my rib cage expands, right? Can you, now, if you turn your head up, you got to think about how you turn your head up, right? People do it too quickly. Can you keep the turn of your head grounded in your sternum, grounded in the base of your spine, and then turn your head up? And when you keep your whole spine turning, it reveals your legs. Good. And then release. Actions up, reveal down. Staying down reveals up. Damn. I got a lot to learn. I'm going this way now. Now, once I push down on this back leg, yep, I get the earth. But as soon as I push down the back leg and I have to do more on this side, I can feel the release of what's going to be one of the up bandhas. Right? You don't often hear, you hear people in flow classes talk about Mula Bandha and Trikonasana, usually not Uddiyana Bandha, right? So now I'm getting this leap up. But remember, when we're doing the bandhas, then you lift it up to the chest, and before you drop your chin, you could feel your legs more, right? So keep the back of your neck long, right? Hit down. Now you can kind of do that little bit of squeeze. So the energy gets moved this way, but as it goes this way, make sure you feel your back leg and then take your arm up. Now use your breath to touch the ceasing, to touch the movement, to open to the space behind you. Now, if you want to turn your head, say, I turned it too quickly. It totally was a bad yogi right there. And as I turn my head, I'm doing it to reveal down. Have you ever had anyone say to you, and then release in, it's easier to do this in Warrior Two, but when you turn your head in Trikonasana, you should have eyes in the back of your head. So you should be watching the ground as your head's turned up. What the hell, huh? You mean there's eyes in the back of my head? How does that teach the Bandha or the Bandhas? It does. What the hell? Let's try it. Let's like do this weird shit, right? So I'm going this way. I'm getting the movement up. I'm going down here. I'm getting the springboard up, but I'm getting the springboard up so I can feel the bottoms of my feet. I get my chest lifted. I'm going to take a time to feel my rib cage here, both sides. Get this up, get this down. Wait, if I spread between my shoulder blades now, how does that show me my core channel? Now, if I get that squeezing, then as I get that, arm goes up. All of a sudden, my arms are window dressings, right? It was already happening whether my arm was up here or not. When I'm down like this, I have an arm that's already up, by the way. It's already happening. I'm just occupying the space. Now, as I turn my head up, I'm going to be more aware of the back of my head, that it's looking down. Ooh, when I do that, the center of my chest gets grounded more. The base of my pose gets grounded more. Breathe. Squeeze the kegel. Feel the bottoms of your feet. Good, and then release. Mamacita. I'm a buzz right now. My body's like lit, right? Because the Bandhas have come to town, right? Your mind is actually allowing more of the metaphysic, right? Because it feels safe enough to. So now we're going to go the other way. So I got to get it all happening again. Remember, I didn't say it, but start the kegel from below your below your seat, right? So I'm getting the up, the down, the opening. I'm trying to find the midline. I'm starting to squeeze, but as I get that to lift up, I'm trying to find the bottoms of my feet. Then I'm going to take the arm up. I already had an arm up. I just wasn't seeing it. Now I'm fulfilling that possibility with my arm. Right now I'm taking my head up and I'm watching, broadening the space between my shoulder blades, turning my head up, being aware of eyes on the back of my head, letting it touch gracefully down, lengthening my neck, looking up, looking down, doing this slight squeeze from below my seat. Let it travel through my body. Now watch my rib cage expand and compress with inhalation and exhalation. Good, and then back to center. I gotta sit here for a second. I'm not used to hitting on so many cylinders. Legs back together. Think I'm hungry for the midline. So I'm bringing my knees together. So I get to go home, home without all this other stuff, right? And I'm gonna smile here at coming home. And if you want to move around, because that's part of coming home, okay, right? There's so many stories going on at once, right? So I'm just, because I'm like a little bit like, don't want to be so deep. Oh, and do a little back bend here. up over my chair. I'm not gonna do it too much, but I have a really sore abdomen right now, so I have to be careful. So go as far as however you want, but again, I'm pushing on my legs. I'm finding the space between. I'm going up and turning the center of my chest skyward, remembering the backside of my body, right? And then back, and then maybe just a gentle grounded twist. I'm doing it this way but you can do whatever twist you want. I'm grabbing here because I want it, but I want it to be super gentle because you can go farther if you want, but I'm protecting against some abdominal stuff. But I want the twist in me. I want to see my spine is twisting, not just my body twisting. How do I find the space in the midline? Well, you revisit the bandhas and then come on back to center and then go the other way, right? So don't just twist the outside of your body. Go to the place that you saw from the class. Gently twist there. When you're more aware of the flow of energy, less effort is required. And then come on back to center. Less effort is required. Less will. So when I'm thinking I have to get shit done, I'm not as aware of my back body. I'm not aware of my balance with the space around me. Right? So now, as I sit here and start to head towards Shavasana, so there's a comparison in my book that I'm writing. I talk about working with autistic people, but I don't know if this is right, but it seems to me with some of the autistic people I've worked with, they have too much reality coming at them too fast. Right? I'm talking pretty more severe, and you see a lot of their their adaptive behaviors, whatever might seem weird to us, are actually adaptive. They're actually trying to get something to stay centered in the influx, right, of what's actually happening because their brain doesn't have the same filters, right? I'm kind of, and I compare it in this paragraph, I compare our state as like we have to defend against reality to have a mind, right? There's too much. It's not that different from, and so sometimes I feel that way when I become too aware of the bandhas in every pose. Like it's so much. It's not a shortcut. It's an expansion of levels that are like, oh, they're not for power. They're actually to remind you to be humble. It's like, wait, there is so much happening. It's not just my movement. So as I sit still, alert, I'm wanting to remember the class, the feelings. Then I'm going to take that and let my chair hold me up. I'm going to find a position where I can take the extra layers and surrender them to the chair. I'm going to soften my eyes and temples and jaw and let there be a midpoint in the center of my skull where my inner ears, my eyes, the back of my nose, they meet. I'm going to relax that midpoint. Relax my belly to relax my throat. Then I'm going to let the chair in again. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes a little bit. Close them if you need to. Open again. So I remember when I was first taking, I'm going to forget one of the classes, but I took a philosophy class. I think I was a freshman, maybe a sophomore, on the ancient Greeks. And Heraclitus said everything has changed. And there's another one of the Stoics that I can't remember his name. Everything is the same. Everything is static, right? Everything's, so Heraclitus would be the one that said you can't step in the same river twice, right? So, and then there's another whole different thing about something being unchanging. So the Greeks are trying to come to that. The ancient Greeks are coming at that at two different schools of thought, right? And the yogis just nod and say to both of them, yes, yes. All right, everybody, you've made it through another class, another week, right? Hands together if you can. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you. And